In December 2011, Lon Strickler of the Phantoms and Monsters blog received a letter from a man who claims he had an encounter with a hairy bipedal creature that he nicknamed the Muck Monster. He claims the sighting happened in northeastern Ohio, in the Akron area, sometime in the mid-1970s when he was still a teenager. It was a beautiful summer night in July, sometime around 1:30 a.m. The witness recalled how a couple of the girls he was friends with wanted to go out to a place they called Blue Lake. They spent a great deal of time there during the day when they were not in school. They referred to it as Blue Lake because the water in the lake was a pristine blue. Anyway, on that particular night, they parked the car off the side of the road and hiked along the train tracks until they got to the edge of the small hill that led down to the lake. The lake was really just an old gravel pit that filled up with water when the diggers hit a spring. As they made their way down to the water's edge, the friends spotted a comet in the clear night sky. We all fixed our stare to this heavenly body with its long tail slowly making its way across the sky. I kept hearing a strange sound. I could best describe it as if you were walking in some fairly deep mud and that suction sound your boots would make as you took each step. While my friends were staring into the sky, I turned my gaze towards the incline down to water's edge, and there I saw what I thought at first was a man walking on the water, but soon realized it was no man at all. At that point in my life, I had never heard of a Bigfoot, so honestly, I did not know what I was looking at. After a few seconds of staring at the creature, the witness motioned to one of his friends to look. When he did, the friend instantly became frightened and screamed. He tore off down the tracks in the direction of the car. Although they did not see the creature, the two girls assumed something was wrong and followed him to the car. In the meantime, I'm still mesmerized by this creature and looking at it just below me at around a 25 to 30 foot incline. It had stopped probably when it heard my friend scream, when it suddenly looked right at me and started to turn to ascend the incline towards me. As I watched it take its first couple steps towards me, I was still trying to figure out in my mind what I was looking at when I decided I better run as well. He eventually caught up to his friends who were nearly at the car. They quickly got inside. No sooner did they start it when they were suddenly surrounded by police cars. The witness recalled that lights were flashing everywhere, and they were quickly trying to come up with a plausible story to explain to the officers why they were out so late. Strangely, the officers seemed preoccupied by something else. The first question they asked a group of teens, "What did you guys see back there?" Eager to leave, they told the officers they saw nothing. After showing them some ID and a quick search of their vehicle, they were allowed to go on their way. For years I called this thing the Muck Monster, not knowing what I had seen. It sure fits the description of the Bigfoot, except I didn't smell anything. That could have been because of the wind direction, I suppose. I just wish I had stood there just a little longer so I could have seen it in the light of the moon as it got higher on the incline. One aspect of that night that still continues to bother the witness was the sudden arrival of the police officers. He believes that they must have known about the creature, especially given how they arrived on the scene so quickly and in such large numbers. In my video Bigfoot and the Men in Black, I spoke of cases in which men dressing and identifying themselves as police officers sometimes arrived on the scene following a Bigfoot sighting, although in many cases they weren't actually police officers. Is that what was happening that night, or was it just normal police officers taking precautions investigating some late night shenanigans down at the lake? The witness claimed that the creature he sighted began to move in his direction very quickly. One has to wonder what would have happened to him had he chosen not to run. While researching reports of a muckman of Ohio, I came across the story of the Hartville Muck Monster. Having never heard of it, I decided to look a little deeper. I quickly discovered that the Hartville Muck Monster was actually a fictional creation. In the 1980s, author Craig Sarich produced an 8-episode newspaper series which eventually became a book titled The Legend of the Muck Monster and Boulder the Dog. According to Sarich, he created the newspaper series for kids. Far from a scary monster like the one observed in Akron, this muck monster in his book is a friendly creature who lurks near Swamp Road with his trusty sidekick Boulder the dog. Together they spend their days and nights having adventures, helping people, and generally spreading kindness around their small community. While Sarich's book is designed for children, it got me to wondering if such a thing was possible. Could a Bigfoot actually have a sidekick like Boulder the dog? Does such an account exist? Well, after some searching, I discovered that the answer is yes. There is at least one account that I was able to locate in which a Bigfoot was seen accompanied by a canine companion. I have to give credit to researcher Peter Muse, who referenced the bizarre sighting on his New England folklore blog. He claims that in 1980 or 1981, there was an incident in which two people working the late shift at a small manufacturing firm on Route 151 in Mashpee, Massachusetts, observed something odd across the street at a local garden center. It was around 2 a.m., and the garden center was closed for the night, but the two workers saw someone lurking around the center's entrance. As they continued to watch, they realized the person they were looking at was quite tall and covered with long, dark hair. After a few minutes, they realized this tall, hairy person wasn't a person at all. It was something else. They eventually determined that it wasn't a person and it wasn't a bear. They could only conclude that it was a Bigfoot. If that wasn't strange enough, the two workers also noticed that the creature seemed to have a companion lingering by its side, a large black dog. Later, the workers watched as the Bigfoot and his canine sidekick walked off down the highway, no doubt in search of an adventure and maybe a good deed or two. Okay, I'm just joking about the last part, but it is definitely interesting. Most Bigfoot reports involving dogs generally end with the dog either running away in fright or the dog being torn to pieces. The fact that this dog and Bigfoot seem to be not only friendly, but actually traveling together makes it beyond rare. Muse found it interesting that the dog was described as large and black. Black dogs are a mainstay in the paranormal, sighted everywhere from haunted houses to graveyards to lonely roads. Some have even seen them on board UFOs. Adding to this, Muse found it interesting that the sighting happened near Edwards Air Force Base, now called Camp Edwards, as the area is rich with paranormal encounters of all types. I even recently covered a bizarre UFO sighting that was said to have occurred at Edwards, a case which seemed to involve not only a possible abduction, but a cover-up by the men in black. Muse did not indicate any other sightings of this strange duo in Mashpee, so it's possible they left the area. It's interesting that less than 5 years after this sighting, Craig Sarich would publish his tale of a Bigfoot and his friendly dog.